Welcome to GOS Media. I'm Josiah Kim. Today's Grain of Sugar is part 7 of our 12-part recital by James Winter of Charles Dickens' novel, A Christmas Carol. So light up the Christmas tree, stoke the fire, grab some eggnog, and gather under the blanket while enjoying Dickens' A Christmas Carol.
Scrooge promised that he would, and they went on invisible as they had been before into the suburbs of town. It was a remarkable quality of the ghost that, notwithstanding his gigantic size, he could accommodate himself to any place with ease, standing beneath a low roof quite as gracefully as in any lofty hall, and perhaps it was the good spirit's pleasure in showing off this power, or else his own kind and hearty nature, and his sympathy with all poor men, that led him straight to Scrooge's clerks. For there he went, and took Scrooge with him, holding to his robe. And on the threshold of the door the spirit smiled, and stooped to bless Bob Cratchit's dwelling with the sprinkling of his torch. Think of that. Bob had but 15 bob a week himself. He pocketed on Saturdays but 15 copies of his Christian name, and yet the ghost of Christmas present blessed his four-roomed house. Then up rose Mrs. Cratchit, Bob's wife, dressed out but poorly in twice-turned gown, yet brave in ribbons. She laid the cloth, assisted by Belinda, while Peter plunged a fork into the saucepan of potatoes. And now 2 smaller Cratchits, boy and girl, came tearing in, screaming that outside the baker's they had smelled the goose and known it for their own. These young Cratchits danced about the table until the slow potatoes boiling up knocked loudly at the saucepan lid to be let out and peeled. Whatever has your precious father been doing? And your brother Tiny Tim? And Martha? Where is Martha? She wasn't late this last Christmas Day by half an hour. Well, here's Martha, Mother. Why, bless your heart alive, my dear, how late you are. Well, we'd a deal of work to finish up last night. Anne had to clear away this morning altogether. Well, never mind. So long as you are come, sit down before the fire, my dear, and have a warm. Oh, Lord bless you. But seeing her father coming, Martha hid herself. And in came little Bob the father, with at least 3 feet of comforter hanging down before him, and his threadbare clothes darned up and brushed to look seasonable, and Tiny Tim upon his shoulder. Alas for Tiny Tim! He bore a little crutch, and had his limbs supported by an iron frame. Why, where's our Martha? Not coming. Not coming? Not coming upon Christmas Day? And not liking to see him disappointed, if it were only a joke, Martha came out early from behind the closet door and ran into his arms. The 2 young Cratchits hustled Tiny Tim and bore them both off into the wash-house that they might hear the pudding singing in the copper. How did little Tim behave? As good as gold and better. Somehow he gets thoughts sitting by himself so much. He thinks the strangest things you ever heard. He told me coming home that he hoped that people saw him in the church because he was a cripple, and that it might be pleasant to them to remember upon Christmas Day who made lame beggars walk and blind men see. Bob's voice was tremulous when he told them this, and it trembled more when he said that Tiny Tim was growing strong and hearty. His active little crutch was heard upon the floor, and back came Tiny Tim, escorted by his brothers and sisters to his stool before the fire, while Bob compounded some hot mixture in a jug with gin and lemons, and he stirred it round and round upon the hob. Master Peter and the 2 ubiquitous young Cratchits went to fetch the goose, with which they soon returned in high procession. Such a bustle ensued that they might have thought a goose the rarest of all birds, and, in truth, it was something very like that in this house. Oh, there never was such a goose. Bob said he didn't believe there ever was such a goose cooked. Its tenderness and flavor, size and cheapness were all themes of universal admiration. Eked out by applesauce and mashed potatoes, it was a sufficient dinner for the whole family, and everyone had enough. But now, the plates being changed, Mrs. Cratchit left the room alone, too nervous to bear witness, to take the pudding up and bring it in. Suppose it should not be done enough. Suppose it should break and turning out. Suppose somebody had stolen it from the backyard. All sorts of horror were supposed. But hello! A great deal of steam. The pudding was out of the copper in half a minute. Mrs. Cratchit entered, flushed but smiling proudly, with the pudding like a speckled cannonball, blazing in ignited brandy and bedight with Christmas holly. Bob Cratchit regarded it as the greatest success achieved by Mrs. Cratchit ever since their marriage. Everybody had something to say about it, but nobody said or thought that it was a small pudding for a large family. It would have been flat heresy to do so. A Merry Christmas to us all, my dears. God bless us. 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 Everyone. Tiny Tim sat very close to his father, by his side on his little stool, and Bob held his withered little hand in his, as if he loved the child and wished to keep him by his side and dreaded that he might be taken away from him. Spirit, tell me if Tiny Tim will live. Oh, I see a vacant seat in the poor chimney corner, and a crutch without an owner, carefully preserved, if these shadows remain unaltered by the future. The child will die. No. Kind Spirit, say that he will be spared. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, none of my race will find him here. What then? If he be like to die, he had better do it, and decrease the surplus population. Scrooge hung his head to hear his own words quoted by the Spirit, and was overcome with penitence and grief. Man, if you be in heart not adamant, forbear that wicked cant until you have discovered the surpluses. And where it is, will you decide who shall live and who shall die? It may be that in the sight of heaven you are more worthless and less fit to live than millions like this poor man's child. Scrooge bent before the ghost's rebuke, and trembling cast his eyes upon the ground. But he raised them speedily upon hearing his own name. Mr. Scrooge, I'll give you Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast. The founder of the feast, indeed. I wish I had him here. I'd give him a piece of my mind to feast upon, and I hope that he'd have a good appetite for it. My dear, the children, it's Christmas Day. Well, it should be Christmas Day, I am sure, on which one drinks to the health of such an odious, stingy, hard, unfeeling man as Mr. Scrooge. You know he is, Robert. Nobody knows it better than you do, poor fellow. My dear, it's Christmas Day. I'll drink to his health for your sake, and the day's, not for his. Long life to him, and a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. He'll be very merry and very happy, I have no doubt. The children drank the toast after him. It was the first of their proceedings which had no heartiness. Tiny Tim drank last of all. But he didn't care twopence for it. Scrooge was the ogre of the family. The mention of his name cast a dark shadow on the party, which was not dispelled for a full 5 minutes. After it had passed away, they were 10 times merrier than before, and the mere relief of Scrooge the baleful being done with. All this time, the chestnuts and the jug went round, and by, they had a song about a lost child traveling in the snow from Tiny Tim, who had a plaintive little voice, but sang it very well indeed. They were not a handsome family. They were not well dressed. Their shoes were far from being waterproof. Their clothes were scanty. But they were happy, grateful. They were pleased with one another and contented with the time. And when they faded and looked happier yet in the bright sprinklings of the Spirit's torch at parting, Scrooge had his eyes upon them, and especially on Tiny Tim until the very last.
Scrooge is quite the character, no? A bah humbug. Of course he's quite the character, which is exactly why the novel is one of the best-selling books in the world. And as a colony member, you get to hear the entire story while sitting around in your Christmas PJs. Make certain to leave a comment letting James know that you appreciate his effort and performance. And don't forget to hit up the merch store on the website. Our Christmas specials will be running through December 25th. You know, we truly mean it when we say thank you for your support. We would be unable to provide our regular programming and the specials without your participation and support. So, truly, thank you. We'll see you back here tomorrow as we continue the journey of Scrooge and his adventures. Merry Christmas. I've been your host, Josiah Kim.